For 35 years, no one saw it?
The Case of Missing Potential by Colin Davis. The story of ADHD, dyslexia, and brilliance hidden in plain sight. Audio introduction. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from running a race you didn't know you were in, wearing shoes you didn't realize were filled with concrete. For millions of adults living with undiagnosed ADHD and dyslexia, this isn't a metaphor, it's Tuesday. The Invisible Epidemic. This is the story of Leo Smith, a 35-year-old middle manager who spent 3 decades believing he was lazy, unmotivated, and wasting his potential, only to discover his brain had been operating with a different instruction manual all along, a Ferrari engine, stuck in a school zone. Leo's story is fiction, but the facts are real. It's a composite drawn from thousands of real experiences, backed by clinical research, illuminated by neuroscience. 6.4 million children in the U.S. have been diagnosed with ADHD, but here's what those statistics don't tell you. For every child diagnosed, there's likely an adult who slipped through the cracks, particularly those who, like Leo, weren't bouncing off classroom walls, just quietly struggling, trying harder, falling further behind. Add dyslexia to the equation, affecting 15 to 20% of the population, and you have an invisible epidemic. 40 to 60% of people with ADHD also have dyslexia. That's not separate conditions, that's compounding challenges. The cost. When learning differences go undiagnosed, the consequences ripple everywhere. Academically, bright students underperform, not from lack of intelligence, but because they're trying to decode information through a system that doesn't match their wiring. They're told they have so much potential. That poisonous phrase that suggests failure is a choice, not a structural mismatch. Professionally, capable adults plateau far below their abilities. They work twice as hard to achieve half the recognition, carrying the secret shame of feeling like an imposter. Personally, relationships strain, forgotten appointments, incomplete tasks, emotional dysregulation from a nervous system in constant crisis mode. Partners become managers. Adults become dependent. Resentment builds. Emotionally, the toll is devastating. Research on academic PTSD shows that adults with undiagnosed learning differences carry wounds that look like trauma, hypervigilance around performance, catastrophic thinking about mistakes, chronic sense of impending failure. The Spiky Profile. Here's what makes ADHD and dyslexia so confusing. The Spiky Profile. Dramatic gaps between exceptional ability and significant impairment. Leo can design an entire marketing campaign in the shower, but can't read a 4-page memo. He has the vocabulary of a professor, but the processing speed of someone wading through mud. He solves complex problems with creative lateral thinking, but can't remember to pay the water bill. This isn't laziness. It's not lack of effort. It's a Ferrari engine trying to drive through a school zone. Traditional IQ testing misses this entirely, averaging peaks and valleys into a misleadingly normal score. Verbal comprehension, 98th percentile. Processing speed, 7th percentile. Full-scale IQ becomes meaningless when the gap is that wide. The result? People like Leo spend their lives being told they're not living up to their potential, when the reality is their potential has been obscured by the wrong measuring stick. Why this story matters. We're living in an era of unprecedented understanding about neurodiversity, the recognition that different brain wiring isn't defective, just different. Yet that understanding hasn't reached everyone who needs it. Adults who grew up in the 80s and 90s fell into a diagnostic gap. Schools weren't equipped to identify learning differences in students who weren't behavioral problems. Teachers interpreted struggle as lack of effort. Parents did their best with limited information. And children internalized the message that their difficulties were moral failings. Now those children are adults, managing careers, raising families, carrying decades of accumulated shame about challenges they were never taught to understand. This book is for them. What this book is. This is not a clinical manual. The information is grounded in research, but Leo's story is meant to illuminate and humanize, not diagnose or treat. This is not a cure narrative. ADHD and dyslexia are lifelong neurological differences. Leo's journey doesn't end with him becoming normal. It ends with him understanding how to work with his brain, rather than against it. This is not a prescription. Some people benefit from medication. Others manage through behavioral strategies and accommodations. Some disclose at work. Others choose privacy. There's no single, right way. This is a map, a guide through late diagnosis, showing what the landscape looks like when someone finally gets the explanation they've needed their whole life and then has to figure out what to do with it. The structure. This book is structured as an investigation because that's how diagnosis often feels. Gathering evidence, following leads, confronting uncomfortable truths, solving a mystery that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. Each chapter ends with case file updates, clinical context, research backing, practical insights beyond Leo's individual experience. An invitation. If you're reading this and seeing yourself in Leo's story, if you've ever felt like you're inexplicably struggling with things that should be easy, if you've been called lazy when you're actually exhausted from trying so hard, if you've wondered whether there's something fundamentally wrong with you, this book is your permission to investigate, to ask questions, to seek evaluation, to stop blaming yourself for a brain that works differently. The case isn't closed on understanding ADHD and dyslexia. Research continues. Diagnostic criteria evolve. Our cultural understanding deepens. But for millions of adults, the most important investigation is personal, the search for why life has felt so much harder than it seems to be for everyone else. Leo's investigation led him to answers that changed his life. Yours might too. A note. While this book is based on extensive research and real clinical experience, it is not a substitute for professional evaluation or medical advice. If you suspect you may have ADHD, dyslexia, or other learning differences, please consult with a qualified healthcare provider or neuropsychologist for proper assessment. Now, let's meet Leo on the worst day of his professional life, staring at a 4-page memo that might as well be written in hieroglyphics, about to begin an investigation that will crack open everything he thought he knew about himself. The case is about to begin.
This is only the beginning. What you just heard is just a fragment of something much bigger. Chapter 1 goes deeper, the patterns you've missed, the signs you overlooked, and the moment it all finally clicks. If you saw yourself in this, you already know this doesn't end here. The full story is inside the e-book, and the workbook is included as a free bonus. Want the complete experience? Grab the e-book plus audio bundle. The workbook is included there too, for a limited time. The answers you've been looking for are closer than you think. The link is below. Get the e-book or the e-book, audio bundle, and the bonus workbook. Like and subscribe to the channel and continue to Chapter 1.
Click the link in the description to get your free download. Give the video a thumbs up, share, and subscribe.